When I had the DC procedure, my husband was in the VIP suite, taking care of the idealized ex and their child. Before we got married, Ethan solemnly promised that our life would be just as happy without children. But after marriage, he eagerly coaxed me into drinking countless unproven fertility remedies. I had originally thought my child would be born into the anticipation and love of their parents, but in the end, I had thought too much. Later, Ethan began coming home early and leaving late frequently, called away by a single phone call, until he appeared before me with the idealized ex, who had returned from abroad pregnant. So, it was her again. I've been disappointed too many times, it's time to let go now. I took the spare key and opened the door. On the sofa, Ethan was gently holding the child, while Skylar leaned on his shoulder, a happy smile on her face. They looked so harmonious, as if they were the true family. And I stood numbly at the doorway, like a contemptible voyeur. Hearing the sound, the two looked over. The smile on Ethan's face instantly vanished. When he saw my hands were empty, his eyes grew even colder. He frowned deeply. Where's what I asked you to buy? Skylar is weak now. Can't you be more considerate and take care of her? My pain was always invisible to him, but he treated Skylar with the utmost care. I kept a cold face and didn't respond. Ethan then loudly demanded, Arya, what are you making a fuss about now? I just asked you to buy something. Why are you giving me that look? If it were usual, I would have angrily questioned Ethan, asking what I truly meant to him. I always humbly begged for his love, longing for that shred of tenderness he might deign to give. But now, I no longer craved it. This relationship, which was nothing but self-deception, had long been rotten to the core once its false peace was torn away. I remained silent and calm the entire time. Seeing my lack of response, Ethan thought I realized my mistake. His ex-brace Shaun softened slightly, and he was about to say a few gentle words when he saw me change my shoes and walk directly into the room. My unusual attitude made a flicker of surprise flash in Ethan's eyes. The room was very messy. Ethan had returned late last night, smelling of alcohol. After drinking, he almost always mistook me for Skylar, then, ignoring my struggles, treated me roughly in bed. But now, I had no mind for the mess. I curled up on the bed to ease the pain. Just then, the bedroom door suddenly opened and slammed shut. Ethan's impatient voice rang out, Arya, can you stop being dramatic? Giving me attitude in front of Skylar, you really are something. I kept my eyes closed. When he got no response, he grew angry, walked to the bed, and pulled me. The immense force made it impossible for me to struggle. I was dragged off the bed and fell to the floor, tears silently streaming from my eyes. He, however, sneered, what are you pretending about? I clutched my stomach, my face pale. Only then did Ethan notice something was wrong with me. He reached out to touch my stomach, his voice laced with a hint of concern. What's wrong? Is the baby bothering you again? I didn't intentionally ignore you this morning. It's just that Skylar's situation was really urgent. She came back from abroad pregnant and divorced, and she doesn't have any relatives here. I had no choice. She'll stay at our place temporarily. Her family will pick her up in a few days. Could you please help take care of her a bit, okay? I pushed his hand away. Why should I take care of her? His eyes behind his glasses instantly darkened. Arya, Skylar is my friend. What's wrong with you taking care of her as my wife? Besides, you're about to be a mother yourself. Why can't you be more understanding of her? Just a friend? I stared into his eyes, my tone sarcastic. Ethan looked impatient. What else could we be besides friends? Can you stop being so suspicious? I looked up at him, a flicker of hope still in my heart. Ethan, did you ever truly love me? Arya, can you stop being so dramatic? I told you there's nothing going on with Skylar. Can you stop making trouble out of nothing? His words were like sharp swords piercing my heart, one by one. I smiled bitterly. So, in your eyes, all of this is my fault. You left me to take care of her. A single phone call could send you into a panic. You stayed by her side when she gave birth, and now you're asking me to help her with postpartum recovery. Ethan, you truly have no heart. After I shouted, Ethan's brows furrowed in anger. Perhaps in his memory, I had never spoken back to him so loudly. Knock, knock. Suddenly, urgent knocking sounded, and the baby's cries were particularly piercing. Ethan, Ethan. Hearing's cries, Ethan quickly got up to open the door. Skylar's face was streaked with tears, crying pitifully. She pulled back the blanket, revealing the baby's bruised and purple leg. The baby has always been very well behaved, but ever since Arya saw her, she's been crying nonstop. I watched her self-orchestrated performance. From the moment she came back until now, I hadn't even looked at that child, but at this moment, Ethan, who was utterly focused on Skylar, wouldn't listen to my explanation. He shoved me away, shielding the mother and daughter, his icy gaze seemingly wanting to pierce through me. Arya, you vicious woman, you won't even spare such a small child. If anything happens to the child, I won't let you off. Skylar stood behind him, the provocation in her eyes clear to me, but I was too lazy to explain, knowing Ethan wouldn't believe me anyway. When she looked at me, the smile on her lips was utterly mocking. Ethan soothingly patted her back. I'll take you two to the hospital right away. Afterward, the two of them left with the child. I leaned against the bed frame, feeling only ridiculous. Ridiculous that I had never truly understood my place in his heart. I began to pack my NGS. Although we paid the mortgage together for this house, only Ethan's name was on the property deed. All the money I had saved over the years I gave to him to start his company headquarters. I always bought him the best and most respectable things, while I used the cheapest for myself. Even after his career became somewhat successful, he never once took me to the company headquarters. For so many years, we didn't even have a single photo of us together, let alone wedding photos. I had once hoped, but he always refused, using too busy with work as an excuse, and later I stopped bringing it up. On the nightstand, there was still a parenting book that Ethan had been reading. As soon as I picked it up, a yellowed photo fell out from inside. The photo showed two people leaning against each other, full of youthful energy. Young and Skylar stood together, a truly handsome and beautiful pair. Everyone who saw them would say they were a perfect match. My hand holding the photo turned white from how hard I gripped it. So, it was never our child he had been looking forward to. At this moment, Ethan returned home with Skylar and the child. He entered the room and threw the vase on the cabinet to the floor, where it shattered into pieces. Arya, what did you do at the hospital today? He stood in the shadows, his gloomy gaze sharp as a knife, cutting painfully. You aborted my child? He quickly walked over, his hand gripping my shoulder, his nails digging deeply into the wound on my collarbone, which he had left there last night when he was drunk. I gasped in pain. Ethan stared at my stomach. Arya, just because I didn't accompany you, you aborted the child? If a friend hadn't told me when I met them at the hospital just now, I would still be in the dark. I tugged at the corner of my lips. Do you still care about the child? Ethan shouted, why wouldn't I care? Arya, how much I looked forward to the arrival of this child, but all of it was destroyed by your own hands. I remained silent, letting him vent, but then I saw his eyes gradually turn red. Actually, the child is still there, right? His eyes were bloodshot, his voice tinged with a plea. Arya, tell me, is the child still safely inside you? I had never seen Ethan like this, he had always been so arrogant. Even when he pursued me, he was cold, showing no signs of liking me. Only later did I learn that being with me was just to get back at the idealized ex who had gone abroad and cut off contact with him. But I didn't care, thinking that as long as I persisted, there would be a good outcome. 2 months into dating, he proposed to me because I was pregnant. There was no ring, just an unknown wild flower he handed me. No banquet or wedding was held either. Yet, that had been enough to make my former self feel incredibly happy. But now, I felt only annoyance and disgust. I averted my gaze, my voice cold. The child is gone. Ethan was furious, his bloodshot eyes fixed on me. Arya, how could you be so heartless? A person like you doesn't deserve to be a mother. Skylar was saying good things about you the whole way, even thinking you had some unspoken difficulties, but I see you're just sick. I explained, it wasn't me who aborted it. He laughed in extreme anger. Are you saying someone forced you to? Arya, at least lie convincingly, right? The room door was still wide open. Skylar heard our argument, walked to the doorway, and started crying again. Ethan, Arya, please don't be upset because of me. This is your home, and I really shouldn't be living here. I'll leave right away, it's just hard for the baby to suffer with me. Ethan's eyes were displeased, staring at me with a full sense of oppression. Arya, this house is mine, don't think you can force Skylar to leave. Besides, you've been eating my food and living in my house all these years, and all I wanted was a child. Why could you be so cruel? The hand gripping my wrist now wanted to crush it, the one who old leave is you. Okay. I calmly agreed to his words, shook off his hand, and went to pull out my suitcase. Seeing my composure, Ethan gritted his teeth. Arya, you're nothing without me. Let's see how you live then, don't come back pleading me. I turned a deaf ear to his words, pulled my suitcase, and left without hesitation. All the money in the house was with Ethan, I had barely $100 on me. I walked for a long time on the lonely, dark street before finally finding a motel that was old but cheap. My body was truly unable to bear it. I lay on the bed fully clothed and fell into a deep sleep. So, I didn't see the long string of messages Ethan sent in the early hours. Arya, what does this mean? The picture he sent was of the divorce agreement I had printed out, signed, and left on the nightstand. You secretly aborted the child, and now you want to divorce me? Are you that impatient? What about all our years of feelings? Arya, stop playing dead. I know all of this is just your way of getting my attention. Skylar said she wants to eat your cooking, hurry back. But I won't forgive you for the child. After reading it, I calmly called his phone. This time, he answered quickly. Arya, have you had enough? Ethan, let's talk properly, about the divorce. After speaking, I directly hung up and sent him the address of a nearby coffee shop to meet. This coffee shop was right downstairs from his company headquarters. I vaguely heard two employees gossiping. Hey, have you seen the CEO's wife's social media posts? She had a baby girl, and they're so in love. Speaking of which, the boss is really devoted. The CEO's wife was his idealized ex since high school. He waited 10 years for her to finally be with him. But the CEO's wife has been in a bad mood lately. Apparently, some shameless woman is trying to climb her way to the boss. There's something like that? A woman who interferes in others' relationships is truly despicable. Wen and Skylar enter. Ed hand in hand, I heard them talking again. That's the boss and the CEO's wife, they're really well matched. No wonder he never took me to the company headquarters. Turns out the position of the CEO's wife had long been given to someone else. Skylar stood beside Ethan, holding the child, and smiled. Arya, the baby cries when she's away from Ethan, please don't mind. I'll sit over there, so I don't disturb you too. He sat down impatiently. Arya, speak, what do you want? As he sat down, I felt two veiled gazes. Is that the woman trying to interfere? No way, who would give up a beauty like the CEO's wife for an old, ugly hag? I stated directly, divorce. Ethan's face darkened, impossible. My eyes were slightly red, and I pleaded, Ethan, you never loved me, so let me go. You can pursue your own happiness, isn't that good? Arya, you dream if you think you're leaving me. Ethan looked at me coldly, tearing the divorce agreement into shreds. The gloom festering in his eyes was so thick it nearly overflowed. At this moment, Skylar walked out, her face frail and innocent. Arya, can I talk to you alone for a few words? I thought about it and agreed. There was no one on the stairwell. Skylar's face instantly turned sinister, completely unlike her usual delicate self. Arya, you deserve to die. How could you make Ethan unwilling to divorce you? You're just a contemptible opportunist, he doesn't love you at all. Skylar, do you know what you sound like right now? I laughed, a repulsive dog, biting everyone you see. Skylar was furious, her eyes widening. A hint of malice flashed in her eyes as she reached out and pushed me down the stairs. Hearing the commotion, Ethan ran over. Skylar cried and threw herself into his arms. Ethan, I just wanted to persuade Arya for you, but she tried to hit me. If I hadn't dodged, she might not have fallen. He originally wanted to go down and check the situation, but Skylar held him tightly, so he had to comfort her first. Finally, a nurse downstairs heard the noise and came up, taking me, who was already unconscious, to the emergency room. Outside the operating room, Ethan was still softly comforting Skylar. Skylar, it's not your fault, everything is her own doing. I didn't expect her to lay a hand on you. I apologize on her behalf. Not until the operating room light went out and I was transferred to a regular ward. The doctor came out and looked at the two. Who is the patient's family member? Ethan let go of Skylar's hand and walked to the doctor. I'm her husband. The patient fell from upstairs, sustained a femoral shaft fracture, mild concussion, and various degrees of contusions all over her body. Her condition is stable after surgery. She just had a DC procedure, her body was already weak, and now she's fallen down the stairs. What kind of husband are you? Ethan angrily retorted, she took it upon herself to abort the child behind my back. All of this is what she deserves. The doctor frowned. What do you mean aborted the child? She had a miscarriage due to external injury. Ethan was incredulous. Miscarriage due to external injury? The doctor sighed, saying earnestly, it's not easy for the patient's body to conceive, and the pregnancy was unstable. Violent intercourse can easily lead to miscarriage. No matter how much you wanted to be intimate with her, you should have considered her body. This is your responsibility. Now that the child is gone, regretting it is too late. The patient has suffered fundamental damage this time. It may be difficult for her to get pregnant again in the future, especially with this double injury. There will inevitably be complications later on. The doctor, being experienced, couldn't help but say a few more words before leaving, while Ethan remained stunned in place. It couldn't be him, although he had been a bit excessive that night when he was drunk. How could it lead to a miscarriage so easily? Skylar saw his pained expressio and quickly stepped forward with concern. Ethan, what's wrong? Ethan ignored her at this moment, pushed her away, and ran to my ward. In the ward, I had just woken up when he suddenly burst in like a madman, his eyes red, screaming at me, no, it couldn't be my fault. Miscarriage due to external injury? You must have colluded with the doctor to lie to me. You heartlessly aborted the child and now you want to put the blame on me? Ethan, see for yourself. I took out my phone and handed him the hospital's examination report. He read it carefully, his eyes bloodshot, his body trembling, falling hysterically to the floor, roaring uncontrollably. It's my fault, I shouldn't have. He raised his hand to cover his face. I could see faint tears seeping through his fingers. But at this moment, I felt only irony. How much sincerity was there in the pain he was showing now? I said calmly, Ethan, I'll print out the divorce agreement again. Let's end it here. He stumbled over and grabbed my hand, pleading, no, Arya, I was wrong to accuse you. Let's not divorce, okay? You don't like Skylar, I'll try to contact her less from now on. I ruthlessly shook him off. Ethan, I'm truly tired. For years, I hoped for your love, but all I received was your coldness. Now, whether it's your love or you, I don't need it. Get out. I didn't want to say anything more to him and pressed the call bell to have the nurse kick him out. Arya, I really know I was wrong. You're weak now, I'll take good care of you. Ethan looked at me gently, then left the ward. I watched his retreating figure and chuckled self-deprecatingly. Perhaps this relationship was wrong from the start. Our first encounter was in a cold winter. At that time I was out shopping, but for some reason, I was targeted by a group of delinquents. They surrounded me in the alleyway, approaching with evil smiles, and started tearing at my clothes. Many people deliberately ignored my cries for help, but only Ethan stood out. He rushed into the crowd, taking who knows how many blows, and finally ran out with me, covered in injuries. His large, warm clothes wrapped around me, his thin figure was etched into my heart at that moment. Later, when I suffered a setback at work, crying on the street, he silently stayed by my side, handing me tissues and a cup of my favorite comfort drink. After we married, he would also, like many loving husbands, give me gentle kisses before going to work, and together at night, we would paint a picture of our future. After the company headquarters was established, he thanked me for my efforts, vowing that he would ensure I lived a good life this whole life. I believed his words implicitly, but my unreserved love, given day after day, became the sword he used to hurt me. I don't know when, but he started restricting my outings, forcing me to quit my job and become a full-time housewife, even cutting off contact with my parents and friends. I became his caged bird, losing all freedom. When my world was reduced to only him, he began to despise my increasingly coarse and sallow face, loathed my inability to conceive, and ridiculed how different I was from his idealized ex. He turned a blind eye to my pain, but treated Skylar with the utmost care. Late-night phone calls, the scent of perfume on his clothes, and the photos he treasured, all gradually drove me mad. To defend my marriage, I argued with him, made scenes with him. In his eyes, I became a crazy person who only knew how to throw tantrums, and even more incomparable to Skylar. Ethan was like a pill coated in sugar. When first approached, one would only be mesmerized by its honeyed sweetness, but once that thin layer of sugar melted away, only endless bitterness remained. Because it was too bitter, I chose to let myself go. Life is never like a movie. A dreamlike hero saves the beauty opening, only to end in endless pain and torment. Ethan came again in the afternoon, with a remorseful Skylar standing beside him. Arya, Skylar heard you were seriously injured and feels very guilty, so she wanted to come see how you are. But actually, it's not her fault either. If you tried to hit her, she could only protect herself first. You shouldn't hold a grudge anymore. Skylar's eyes, however, hinted at provocation. Arya, I'm really sorry. If I hadn't dodged then, you wouldn't have been hurt. I scoffed. Skylar, you are very foolish. Ethan frowned tightly. Arya, what are you saying? Don't you know? There are security cameras in the stairwell. Skylar instantly panicked upon hearing my words. If there were security cameras, wouldn't everything she did be clear? Ethan explained for her. Arya, are you suspicious of Skylar? It definitely wasn't her. You've just had surgery and aren't thinking clearly, you must have remembered wrong. Skylar has no reason to do that. Skylar suppressed the panic in her eyes and immediately echoed, yes, Arya, you must have remembered wrong. Watching the two of them acting in concert, I found it only ironic. Between me and Skylar, Ethan would never choose to believe me. Get out! I roared angrily. Ethan still wanted to say something, but Skylar pulled him away. Just outside the hospital, Ethan received a phone call. Someone was causing trouble downstairs at the company headquarters, so he immediately rushed there with Skylar. The company headquarters reception area was surrounded by many people. Ethan immediately had a bad premonition. He coldly told his assistant to send the onlookers back to their workstations. Then the secretary came forward, pointing to the middle-aged man on the sofa not far away. Boss, that man arrived an hour ago, insisting on forcing his way in to see you, and he said you. Ethan asked, said what about me? The secretary hesitated, said you picked up a used shoe and treated it like a treasure. At this moment, Ethan suddenly noticed Skylar beside him looking terrified, her body trembling. Skylar, wha? T's wrong? Skylar hadn't had time to speak when the middle-aged man sitting there walked over. He stared fiercely at Skylar. So you've come back to your old flame, still not enough being cuckolded, huh? Skylar cowered behind Ethan, her voice pleading, Ethan, save me. Ethan's eyes sharpened, you're her ex-husband? The middle-aged man laughed, ex-husband? We're not divorced yet. Don't let this little slut's delicate face fool you. She's been doing all sorts of nasty things behind my back. She's been giving me being cuckolded plenty these past few years, not only had a bastard child with someone else, but also conspired with others to run off with all my money. Looks like she's found a backer, young man. Are you going to pay her debts for her? Ethan found it incredible after hearing this. How could Skylar be such a person? But the pieces of evidence the middle-aged man took out stung his eyes, forcing him to believe. Skylar grabbed Ethan, crying, Ethan, listen to me, I had my reasons. Suddenly remembering something, Ethan's face darkened, and he demanded, Skylar, did you push Arya? Ethan, Skylar tried to explain, but Ethan interrupted her with a cold expression, I will investigate this thoroughly. If it's true, I will make you pay. Finally, Ethan called the company headquarters security and had both of them removed. After this farce, everyone in the company headquarters was gossiping. So she's not the CEO's wife? But last time she came, she secretly told us the baby was the boss's, and all her social media posts were showing off their love. She even accused others of interfering. But now it seems she herself is the shameless the other woman. Her husband is miserable, not only was he being cuckolded, but his money was also taken. And the boss didn't even explain? Having a wife but still caring so much about the idealized ex, definitely a scumbag. After all, it takes two to tango. The next morning, I hesitated for a long time holding my phone before finally making up my mind to call home. When the news of my marriage reached home, my parents actually disagreed. After all, at that time Ethan was just a poor boy. And my family was well off, and I had been pampered by my parents since childhood. They didn't want me to suffer with him. But I was stubborn. Once I decided on Ethan, I wouldn't change. Finally, under his half-coercion, half-coaxing, I unilaterally cut off contact with my family. But many times later, I regretted it, wanting to talk to my parents, yet afraid they would know I wasn't doing well. After all, at that time I was so confident I would find happiness. Arya, is that Arya? On the other end of the phone, there was a surprised and flustered voice. I choked up, Mom, it's me. Arya, have you been well these past few years? I had imagined countless times the scene of reconnecting with my family, but now, just hearing a single sentence from my mother, tears streamed uncontrollably. No, I haven't been well. I cried loudly, as if to vent all the grievances I had suffered over the years, complaining to my closest family, as naturally and childishly as I used to. In fact, I've always been a bit spoiled like this, but for Ethan, I learned to change, to become what he wanted me to be. But none of that was me. Arya, come home. Dad and Mom are always waiting for you. My mother didn't ask for reasons, never got angry that I hadn't contacted them all these years, just told me with immense tenderness that my family would always be my support. Okay. As soon as I hung up, Ethan came in, holding a bouquet of flowers. Arya, how are you feeling? Any better? Then he brought the flowers to me. I remember you once said you liked roses. I specially picked them for you, the most vibrant bouquet. I glanced at the bouquet of vibrant, dew-kissed roses in his hand, then shifted my gaze. In fact, I had always loved sunflowers, but it was Skylar who loved roses. Over the years, I had never received any flowers or gifts from him. He believed that old married couples didn't need to do such things. Naturally, I didn't expect them now either. Seeing me say nothing, he continued on his own. Arya, I checked the security cameras, and it was indeed Skylar who pushed you down. I really didn't expect her to be such a person. I knew nothing about her affairs abroad. I didn't realize she had changed from how she used to be, and that's why she hurt you. She's now in the police station for suspected fraud and intentional assault. She won't appear again, and she won't interfere between us. Arya, let's make up, okay? I listened to him calmly, then shook my head. Ethan, our problems have never just been about Skylar. Even now, he still thought I wanted to divorce him only because of Skylar, but in reality, he himself was the root of the problem. All those little things he never cared about had hurt me thousands of times over. Ethan's voice was hoarse. Arya, I know you harbor resentment, and I truly know I was wrong. If you had just told me back then, I would definitely have understood you, and things wouldn't have come to this. The child's matter is all my fault. I'm heartbroken too, but if you had stopped me that morning, perhaps the outcome would have been different. Even now, he was still defending himself. I handed him the newly printed divorce agreement. Ethan, sign it. No, Arya, I won't sign it. I truly love you. I promise I won't let you suffer any more grievances in the future. Ethan tried to take my hand, but I dodged him. I said sarcastically, then your love is quite cheap. Tears welled in his eyes. Arya, it's understandable that you're angry with me now. I'll learn to be a good husband in the future. It doesn't matter if we don't have children, just the two of us together is enough. Even if we stay together, we'd only be adding another resentful couple to the world. There's no need to torment each other. Arya, I'll visit you next time. I absolutely. Why will not sign the divorce agreement? Ethan saw my resolute attitude and left after saying that. After he left, I asked the nurse to throw the bouquet into the trash can. Things that weren't suitable were just an eyesore if kept. I rested in the hospital for this period. Ethan sent many messages every day, but I didn't reply to any of them. He even sent porridge he had personally cooked, showing concern, but my heart felt not a single ripple. He seemed convinced that I was just upset and would eventually change my mind, looking at me with constant indulgence, as if I had always been the one being unreasonable. He turned a blind eye to all my rejections and coldness, stubbornly insisting on not divorcing. But in fact, he also knew that we could never go back to how we were. Half a month later, I was discharged from the hospital, and Ethan came to pick me up. He chattered endlessly in the car, saying that he had redecorated our little home, and it would be just as I liked. He also said that the daffodils at home had completely withered without my care. I was silent for a long time before finally speaking. Ethan, I want to go somewhere. Okay. This place was the art behind Maplewood University. Ethan proposed to me here, leaving memories that belonged solely to us, or rather, that only I treasured. Arya, why are we here? I looked at him. Do you still remember this place? Ethan smiled and nodded. Of course, I proposed to you here. It was a simple setting back then. I couldn't even give you a ring. I'll make it up to you when we get back. Actually, he said that with some guilt. Though poor back then, he wasn't so poor he couldn't afford a cheap ring. It was simply because he didn't care at the time. I smiled indifferently. Ethan, don't deceive yourself. You simply didn't love me back then. Arya, Ethan was a bit embarrassed and tried to say something else, but I interrupted him. Since we started here, let's end it here too. Ethan, let's get divorced. Ethan frantically pleaded. Arya, I truly know I was wrong. Please don't leave me, okay? I'll listen to you from now on. I promise something like this will never happen again. Please forgive me. I spoke to him calmly. Ethan, let's maintain some dignity. I don't want to drag this to court, it would be too embarrassing. Let's just put an end to these 5 years between us. Ethan fell silent. The me standing before him had always been submissive and obedient, but now he found me unfamiliar. Only then did he realize he had never truly understood me. After a long pause, he spoke again. Okay, Arya, I'll sign. He took the divorce agreement and signed his name. Arya, even though we're divorced, I won't give up. From now on, I'll follow you. I'll pursue you again, okay? No need. A few days later, Ethan and I divorced. Stepping out of City Hall, I looked up at the bright sunlight, feeling exceptionally light. I had finally escaped that confined world. From now on, I would belong to myself. Ethan's face was somewhat dejected, his stubble untrimmed. Arya, until you find a place to stay, just stay at home. I smiled brightly. No trouble, I have somewhere to go. Ethan, goodbye. Never again. I strode towards freedom, but Ethan was trapped in place. I packed my luggage and set off on my journey home. Ethan sat dejectedly in the empty bedroom, surrounded by piles of cigarette butts and beer bottles. The number you dialed is temporarily unreachable. Please try again later. All contact methods were blocked, but he still dialed the number again and again. He hadn't expected me to leave so decisively, without leaving any hope. When he realized he couldn't contact me, he tried to contact my friends and family, but then he suddenly realized that he knew nothing about my life or past from these past few years. Just as now, after I left, he could no longer trace my whereabouts, rapidly fading from his life. After work, there was no longer a rich meal on the table, the MES.SY house wasn't cleaned, and no one would carefully care for him when he was drunk. Ethan searched through his phone, unable to find even a single photo of us together, trying to piece together our loving past, only to find it shattered into pieces on the floor. Finally, he discovered in a corner an unopened envelope that must have been left there at some unknown time. Upon opening it, he was surprised to find a love letter she had once written to him 5 years ago. Its sincere, slightly naive words conveyed youthful love, poured out without reservation. At the very bottom was a radiant, vibrant sunflower. In the quiet night, Ethan wept silently as memories from the past flashed before his eyes, and regret surged like a tide. He had, after all, lost his sunshine.